disagree.
I think the two unequivocal losers in this.
And
you can see it from their discomfiture last night. The Labour and Tories were too divided to turn up and
And on that, presumably, Lord Pearson, you'd agree?
Yeah, I think it's good that Clegg did it and started to have this debate, which we haven't had for many years.
And what did your man get out of it, do you think?
Well, I think he won, quite frankly. And I think his arguments resonate with British people. And I think they'll go on doing so.
Quentin Letts in the Daily Mail says this morning that Nigel Farage was sweating like an onion on low gas. Did it work to get angry? I mean, it's a serious point, Lord Pearson. He looked angrier than Nick Clegg. I just wonder in the longer term whether that works.
I haven't a clue. I mean, I don't think he looked all that angry. I think he has vision, which I think none of the other party leaders have. And I think she's really calm.
Hold on, let him finish his point.
I knew it wouldn't help if we were going to have a debate or be interrupted all the time. So I think Nigel made one mistake when he said that we have been giving our signature away. Of course, that isn't true. We're paying Brussels billions a year to take it. But apart from that, I think he rightly said that the whole project of European integration is a failed project. And I suppose I think it's a pity that they didn't go a bit deeper behind that obvious fact and explain why and how the project has come to fail and become an undemocratic Titanic, which is incurable and can only get worse.
Interesting answer on Ukraine that Mr. Farage gave. Which can I just put it to you both? He said at one stage we should hang our heads in shame. He said the EU had pursued an imperialist, expansionist agenda over Ukraine. The European Union has blood on its hands, he said. I just wonder, Paddy Ashdown, whether, and actually he might be speaking for a lot of people who feel not necessarily that, but that Ukraine is not our business, and we are being encouraged into areas that we don't really want to go to as a country anymore. Well, yeah, there's an element of that.
Well, we all know where that led us to in 1939.
Yes, but it's a different situation.
Well, look, I mean, let's just put it this way. There are different views as to whether or not the European Union's policy of Ukraine is a big one, which has been driven by absolute wisdom. There are different, personally, I don't think that any Europe had done or had not done could have stopped Putin reacting in this way when Ukraine rejected the Russian proposition. Mr. Putin wants to preserve the old-fashioned idea of spheres of influence for great powers, of which Russia is not one. But what I think we saw very clearly from Mr. Farage on this particular issue last night, irrespective of what your opinion is really a degree of, which was inexperience, let's put it that way. I think it's an outrageous thing to have said, and I'm sure he regrets it this morning.
Lord Pearson?
No, I think he was quite right. I mean, I think in this situation, as in so many, when people are fighting and squabbling and so on, the question is who started it? And surely it is the EU's territorial ambitions which led them to offer Ukraine an association agreement. And don't let's forget that Russia has been saying for years that it couldn't tolerate Crimea coming under the sphere of influence of Brussels. So I think Nigel Farage was justified in what he said. And I think we should go on talking about it.
In 10 seconds.
Who started it? That's the question.
10 seconds, Paddy Ashdown.
It is remarkably sort of going back to the past, which is what you does rather well actually, to believe that we are now in the era where great powers have spheres of influence. That's what got us into the problems in 1940.
It may well come up again.
We now believe in the idea that nations have a right to their own self-determination.
There's
And
another
that's the
debate
European
today.
principle.
Thank you both.
Thank
you both for talking to each other. Paddy Ashdown, Lord Pearson as well. Lord Ashdown, Lord Pearson. Thanks.
21 minutes past 7. Help to buy. How can that help someone to buy a house? Well, there is a question from the
Yeah, well, this is it poses a threat to the country's financial stability, is what the former regulatory boss Adair, now Lord Turner, you remember him, he used to be the head of the Financial Services Authority. Well, he was giving a speech last night on inequality. Now, much of that could be tied up in the property ownership question, and he seemed, when I caught up with him before his speech, he seemed very nervous about a rampant housing market.
I think if we have an environment where there is a continual increase of the amount of mortgage borrowing against property prices, which go up in price because of the mortgage borrowing, and then you borrow more because the property prices have gone up. You've got a sort of escalator machine, a self-reinforcing system which is bound to create instability, and we have to focus on some of those fundamentals as well as the technical issues.
That sounds like an argument to cancel or ditch Help to Buy.
I think there is a danger that Help to Buy, in its overall design, is encouraging too much borrowing against housing. And I have said before, I think there's a danger that having had a massive hangover in 2008, our predominant cure to it now seems to be the hair of the dog that bit us, let's have another stiff drink. I think there could be a role for Help to Buy, which more explicitly focuses on the people who truly cannot afford to get a deposit, or the actual new build of houses. Because the other big problem that we've got is we have had, for years in the UK, large amounts of mortgage credit, and we're putting up against a fixed amount of housing supply, rather than actually building new housing supply. Now, obviously, if you have an increase in the amount of demand which is out there, and a fixed amount of supply, the only thing that can give is the price, and that's broadly speaking what happened in the years before the crisis.
Given that so much of wealth is tied up in property, and you've isolated this as one of the key sources of inequality, and that has bad social consequences, can I take it that you would back a mansion tax of some sort?
It was very unfortunate that we did away with the rates and moved to the council tax. And I certainly think that there is a role for a much higher council tax band than there is at the moment. I think it's very odd how little I pay relative to other people for council tax. Whether we're overdoing it by going to the mansion tax is part of that classic British policy which we've had in capital gains tax, where we started at 40, we reduce it to 10, we bring it back to 28. I worry on the mansion taxes, we may be flipping to the other extreme. Again, there may be a sensible intermediate policy, which is to just introduce very significantly higher bands within the council tax.
With your old FSA head on, you moved in the budget to allow pensioners to sort of do what they like with their pension pots. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about this, saying that actually the financial services industry is offering a rotten deal, and it's high time their bluff was called. Other people saying what we're going to have is a bunch of people, blowing their retirement savings and then throwing themselves in destitution on the state. I just wonder what your view of the annuities market shake-up is. Do you think it's a good thing or bad thing?
At one level, you can put the argument, why don't we trust people to make their own decisions? And I think the argument about coming back to be reliant on the state is a less powerful argument now, given that we are heading quite rightly to an unmeans-tested single-tier state pension. And what the government is essentially saying is, well, if you blow it, just be aware that you will live the whole of your retirement on £7,000 a year, which is, will keep you out of absolute poverty, but no more than that. So that is the argument. I think there are dangers in it. I think I would have preferred something which encouraged people to take annuities at a later rate. I've been convinced for some time that people taking out annuities aged 60 or 65 is not an intelligent thing, because you're simply trying to stretch the product across such a large expected life that it's bound to be low value, because the insurance company has to put in a lot of capital because there's risks.
That was Adair Turner, former boss of the FSA. Quick reaction from E.ON, who said a full market investigation by the Competition and Markets Authority into energy is the only way to restore full public confidence to the energy sector, and he politicised the whole issue of essentially.
Yeah, the boss of Central did 10 past 8. As well. Thank you, Simon. Now at 25 past 7, Jonathan Sport.
Morning. The Premiership title race is all over. Well, in Scotland anyway. Celtic are champions for the third year in a row after they beat Glasgow rivals Partick Thistle 5-1. Even more pleasing for manager Neil Lennon is the margin of their triumph, with 7 games still to play.
We are the title favourites every season, but we've been emphatic this year, and there's room for improvement. Obviously, there are other competitions that we want to look at and strive forward in, but it's in our DNA as a club to win championships, and since I've been involved with the club, that's 9 in the last 14 years. So we're certainly, stamping our domination on the championship here.
In the Premier League, Liverpool are back up to second behind Chelsea after beating Sunderland 2-1 last night. West Ham won 2-1 against Hull, whose goalkeeper Alan McGregor spent the night in hospital with a damaged kidney following a collision during the game in which he was sent off. UEFA's 54 member countries have just voted to create a Nations League competition which will start in September 2018. It's going to replace most international friendlies and then feed into qualifying playoffs for the 2020 European Championship. And one other football... £1 at least of public funding for the game's grassroots. Sport England, the body responsible for distributing public money to increase sports participation, has taken the decision because of a sharp decline in the number of people regularly playing the sport. We'll have more on the programme very shortly. On to cricket. England need to buck the trend this winter and win a match. Otherwise, they're going to be home early from the World T20. England play Sri Lanka this afternoon in Chittagong in Bangladesh. Jonathan Agnew is waiting for us. Good morning to you.
I am. Good morning to you. Fingers crossed for the weather. They're talking about the possibility of a storm again this evening, which England certainly do not want.
After New Zealand know when they lost. So give us some grounds for English optimism, please. Is that it?
Well, it's 2020 cricket, and so I wouldn't put Sri Lanka any more as sort of marginal favourites, if you like, and anyone could win these games. But as we know, England are having such a struggle. It's difficult to tell how they're playing because they were rather robbed the other night with that lightning. I thought it was very unfortunate. Stuart Broad was fined for those comments. There was a safety issue. It's something umpires have to be very careful of, just simply to try and get a game in, to cram it in, to give the points out. I didn't think it was right on that occasion. But anyway, the morale is pretty high. There's only Stuart Broad, actually, of these cricketers, who's been on the whole way around this awful winter. So in fact, if you look around the rest of the team, they're pretty buoyant, but when you're up against the likes of Malinga, Mendes with the ball, and then, as we know, Dilshan, Jayawardene, Sangakkara, Chandimal, this sort of batting lineup, vastly experienced and explosive Sri Lankans, it's going to be very difficult for them.
And of course, Sri Lanka dismissed the Netherlands for 39, so match that, England.
That was all a bit of a farce, and we've got South Africa, Netherlands first.
Yes, OK then. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed then that England can do something. Just another thought, how damaging is it, Jonathan?